Hi, and welcome to the EZLaw 360 webinar. We're glad that you're able to attend, and we're looking forward to presenting EZLaw 360 to you and answering any questions you may have. I'll start off first by introducing myself. My name is Michael Seville. I've been with EZLaw for 18 years, pretty long time, occasionally need to be dusted off. EZLaw was recently purchased by Dye Durham. And that's going to add a lot more value for our end users going forward in terms of integrations. We currently have over 1,500 firms across Canada in all provinces. We've developed our EZLaw legacy solution, which is still out there in the market. That was introduced in the late 90s, and it's now being replaced by EZLaw 360. 360 has actually been on the market for over 3 years, so it's very reliable, very stable. Much newer technology, of course, than our legacy application. There are a lot of improvements in 360 versus the legacy solution as well. A lot of new functionality. We've migrated a majority of our EZLaw customers over to 360, and it's a fairly quick and seamless migration process. Typically, for the average firm, depending on the size, it takes less than an hour to migrate the data. In some cases, even less than that. Our largest firm on EZLaw 360 is 200 users, so it's pretty fair size. The only thing you really do when you move from their legacy app to the new solution is deal with training for the staff, which is fairly minimal, and also with build template customization, all the other data comes across. If you are on a different solution other than EZLaw, we can also migrate your data. We've pretty much migrated data from every competitor application. So you can assume that we can get some of your data across into EZLaw as well, and there's an entire process for that. Our pricing is extremely competitive, not just for our existing customers moving from EZLaw to 360, but also for firms that are switching over from a competing solution. So to kick things off, we're going to take a look first here at the during the webinar, there's a Q&A feature on the Zoom bar that you can use to type in questions. So we'll collect those as we kind of go throughout and have a short poll for you. If you have any issues with your PC audio, try to join the webinar via phone. If you run into any other technical issues, just let us know via chat. I don't need to introduce myself, already kind of gone through that. And then the agenda for today's webinar, we're pretty much going to cover 360 A to Z, let you know what's in the product. It's kind of a general overview of the functionality. And keep in mind, depending on how you run your firm, there's a lot of different ways you can do things in EZLaw 360, particularly with regards to things like billing, because firms tend to have different billing practices and different workflow. We may not be able to cover all of those in this webinar. So if you do have questions after the webinar, there's a short Q&A session and we'll respond to some questions. If you got any additional questions, you can direct those to sales@ezlaw.com or give us a call at 888-663-4545 or visit our website, ezlaw.com, and select Contact Us in the top right corner. And then all of the contact information is there as well. So first off, we'll just touch on some of the benefits of 360. It's obviously the most common accounting practice management functionality that law firms need to run their businesses. We do have EZLaw 360 available in desktop and cloud. If you are on a desktop version, you can easily transition to cloud at any point in time. The reason we have both solutions available is we don't want to paint you in a corner. So if you're more happier with an on-premise solution versus a cloud solution, we give you the choice, so you can choose either one. The interface in EZLaw 360 is very easy to use. We've made a lot of changes over our legacy product just to improve the user interface and make things easier. And then finally, our product is very scalable. As I mentioned, we have a firm over 200 users. So if you're a larger firm, if you have performance issues or you have reporting issues in terms of how long you're reports take to run, you're not going to run into those with EZLaw 360. We use a technology called Microsoft SQL. And what that means to you as an end user is very reliable, very commonly used database throughout the entire industry. And that translates into very little issues and downtime with regards to that particular technology. EZLaw 360 is much more efficient, again, than our legacy product in that we've centralized the client matter contact solution. You know, you can maximize your billable hours a bit more, reduce the amount of time it takes to do things. We've got a very quick reports in 360, so you can run your reports quickly. So if you're running into that as an issue, you won't have that problem. A very extensive audit trail. Every transaction that's entered or changed is easily traceable, so you can determine who did what and when. It has automatic software updates, so there's no download required. They're automatically delivered right to your desktop or cloud if you're on a cloud solution. And it is one solution to manage your firm. Some products on the market do require a third-party accounting integration, so we don't need that because we essentially are the accounting with some practice management features. We also offer some third-party integrations that are commonly used. So we can integrate with things like eTray, eConveyance for disbursement imports. There's a release going out actually end of this month or beginning of October with some new integration functionality for getting those disbursements into EZLaw. And also we integrate with other things like cost recovery solutions. There's a lot of data import features in 360 where you can import transactions such as unbilled time and disbursements, as well as clients and contacts. And again, the last thing that probably differentiates us between maybe some of the other products on the market, we do listen very carefully to your feedback. And from a customer service standpoint, we're really focused on delivering functionality that's going to make your firm more efficient, not just new features that are not very useful. So if you do send us feedback, it won't disappear into a black hole. We'll definitely look at it. And if it's beneficial for a majority of firms out there, we will definitely consider implementing that. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start off the tour of 360 here. So regardless if you're using cloud or desktop solution, you'd have an icon on your desktop, and then you simply log in, which I'm doing now. And I'm going to show you some of the features and functionality. And we're going to start first and foremost with just the Clients and Matters feature. So Clients and Matters is in the top left corner of the screen. EZLaw offers a client or matter-driven approach. What that means to you as an end user is you can number your clients uniquely, meaning every single client has a unique number, or you can use what's called a matter-driven system where every client, and I'll show you an example if you open this one up, has a client number and a matter number. These can be alphanumeric. The reason you might choose to use this matter-driven approach is it will group your matters on reports. The other thing it will do is, for example, if you change the mailing address on one matter, it's going to ask you if you want to populate all matters with those changes. So again, personal preference, that can be dealt with at the time of setup for EZLaw 360. And if you're already using it, you may have that option turned on or off. The next thing we've kind of enhanced in EZLaw 360 is the search. Finding things is very easy. It doesn't matter if you're searching for clients or you're searching for time or disbursement codes or whatever the case may be. You just type what you're looking for. So as you can see, I type in client number 3001, narrows it down. If I wanted to type in the last 4 digits of the phone number over here, again, it'll narrow down the list. So finding things is much easier in our new application. And again, depending on what application you're using, you may have a reasonable search feature or you may not, but you will find that in 360, everything is very easy to find. The conflict search is also available here in the Clients and Matters Center at the top toolbar. So of course, before you take on a new client, you're going to want to do a conflict search. And again, everything's heavily simplified in 360. You just type what you're looking for. It can be words or phrases, and you can use the various options to narrow down your search. All the results will display in the bottom window. And again, if you don't find what you're looking for, you can just go back to the top and execute another search. So the next thing we'll look at is adding a matter, a client or matter in 360, very easy to do. And again, if you're using a matter-driven system, you'll see options like this, new matter for selected client. And if you're not, you'd only see a new client option. So again, if you want to add a new client, it's just as simple as clicking the button, pops up a window, it's going to automatically number. You're going to be able to put in the client name, the contact, the matter description, mailing address, phone numbers. Of course, we track the type of law, who the responsible lawyer is. EZLaw also accommodates originating lawyers, so you can run reports to determine who's bringing the business to the firm. There are quite a few other tabs when adding a client and matter. The ones that are required are on the front screen here, and they're not all required, some are optional. If we click on some of these additional tabs, you'll see additional information, things like opposing lawyer, tax settings, the close details if the client is closed, billing and statement settings. These are all your rate settings to customize lawyer and timekeeper rates and client rates, your e-bill settings if you're automatically emailing bills or statements, billing address, and then you've got some additional tabs here. For example, if you want to track or enter additional conflict information, you want to set up some custom fields. A good example is you could set up who referred this client. All these custom fields are, as well as all of the information for the most part in EZLaw 360 is exportable to Excel. So again, this can all be exported and easily sorted and so forth, which allows you to work with it outside of the application. We do have an identify verify feature, allows you to easily keep track of the client or the company or the individuals in terms of identifying and verifying them. Most firms I find kind of have a manual process in place for this, but we do have it if you want to use it, and you can enter that information in EZLaw. Okay, so next thing we'll look at is viewing information on a client, which is all these tabs across the bottom of the screen here. The general tab, as you can see, it's got all the general information about the client or the matter. So you'll see the addresses and phone numbers, you'll see your account balances. The balances tab is going to show you year to date, life to date, accounts receivable by lawyer or timekeeper, trust by bank. And then we've got an events and tasks tab. EZLaw can record events and tasks against a client. So again, these are very similar to Outlook. Just to give you an idea, if we open one of these up, the subject, the description, which client it's for, who it's assigned to, start dates, end dates, start times, end times. So if you're familiar with Outlook, which it seems most firms use, you'll be also familiar with this information. We do shortly have an Outlook integration coming, and it's not a one-way push, it's an actual synchronization. We'll be releasing a practice management browser application probably towards the end of the year or early next year. And in that application, you'll have a complete calendaring system, shared calendar, the ability to synchronize your events and tasks and such with Outlook. So it'll give you essentially a complete calendaring solution that works with EZLaw as well. And it'll also help you deal with reminders and things like that, staying on top of appointments and tasks and such. We have a limitation diary as well built into 360. So again, you can enter in limitation dates and important information about those. And you can automatically print out limitation reports. You can also run reports from up here, events, tasks, and limitations. So if I go and run that, I can basically select the criteria I want and then print out a report with all the details on whatever I selected. So the next four tabs here pertain mostly to the transactions that are going on a client. You've got time and fees, disbursements, trust, bills and payments. Here you see, for example, all your time and fees on the client. Very easy to follow, you know, the dates, descriptions, is it billable, the amounts, which timekeeper is it, and over here the status column that tells you, was this billed or was it is it unbilled, is it pre-billed, meaning it's in billing, written off, reversed, edited. So again, we keep a very extensive audit trail. Even if somebody edits a transaction, you can easily tell who did it just by selecting the transaction and then right-clicking and choosing view or print the audit. The disbursement ledger, pretty straightforward as well. It's going to show you where you entered that disbursement from. It came from a general check or disbursement entry. accounts payable, or it's going to show you the details about the disbursement, taxes, etc. And you're also going to see the status to tell you what the state of that transaction is. We've got a trust ledger here. It shows you the different types of trust transactions on the client. Those would include payments, checks, transfers, receipts. You can, for example, select a receipt and reprint it here. You can do things, and also I should mention, there are certain things you can do with regards to transactions, such as select a receipt and reverse it from here. Or for example, if you had an unbilled time entry like this client, you can right click on that right in the Client Matter feature and do things like edit, reverse, transfer, write-off, and so forth. Finally, we have this bill and payments ledger, and this will show you all the bills for the client and all the corresponding payments for the client, so you can easily relate those, see the status of the bill. Is it paid? Is it overpaid? We do deal with overpayments and credits and all that kind of stuff. You can move money between different matters. You can issue refunds and so forth. And you can even go so far as editing bills on a client ledger, reprinting bills. So again, very easy to work with those transactions. These tabs across the bottom here, very similar to the ones we just looked at. That's all that conflict information, additional conflict information you might want to enter, custom fields if you have any. Again, you can update these right here as well. There's a notes feature if you want to put in notes and date timestamp it, save that against the client as well. And there's the identify verify feature. Again, these are just here for convenience. We do have this linked people feature, which I'll show you shortly. If you're dealing with open and close clients, you can select a client at the top. You can right click on it and you're going to get some additional options like close the client. We do allow you to open and close. So we've got that functionality available. You can toggle here between open and close clients, view all the details on a closed client, and easily right click on it and reopen it so you don't lose any of the transaction history as well. So in addition to, actually just give me a second here, I'll reopen the clients and matters. In addition to the tabs across the bottom here, we've got some reports. So these are some basic reports for clients and matters, like an information sheet, kind of gives you all the details about the client, a pre-bill summary, that gives you billing instructions, transaction history, disbursements, all that sort of stuff. A transaction listing is really just if you want to print out the information on these accounting ledgers. I'll just go ahead and show that to you. I can select a client. I can decide, also enter a date range. I can decide what I want to print out at the bottom of the screen. For example, like just show me the unbilled time and fees and disbursements. And then I can view that on screen or print, which you can do with all our reports. So when I open that up, you can maximize all these so they're easy to read. And then you can print out a transaction listing with, you know, time and disbursements and trust and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, from the Client Matter feature, you can create a bill for a client, but we'll get into that shortly once we take a look at billing. We also have a contact function in EZLaw. So this could be used for tracking firm and private or personal contacts. You can use it for individuals or companies. So essentially, when you go into this feature, it looks very similar to Clients and Matters. You've got a search, new contact. You've got some tabs here. For example, you can have notes on a contact, custom fields. You can identify and verify contact. Where that becomes useful is this linked people feature, because you can select a particular contact and then you can choose which matter you want to link that to. So that way, when you've linked the matter, what you can do when you select link, you'll see it show up here. And if you go look, for example, at matter 001, Robert Jones, and I'll go back to the client feature, and there's 1001. Didn't mean to open that. Click on linked people, and then you'll see who's related to that matter. So if there's multiple individuals or companies, and you want to keep track of those relationships, that's how you would use the contacts and the linked people feature. Okay, so next, let's have a quick look at time entry in 360, enter time and fees. It is designed kind of like an Excel sort of format where you work across and everything's in a row. So in EZLaw, when you're entering transactions. It doesn't matter if it's a time entry or a trust receipt or a check. We've got a hotkey F5. It'll pull up all these search lists. And then again, you can easily type what you're looking for. If you're looking for client 2001, hit enter, put in the lawyer number. Again, I'm not sure about the code, but again, if you know the code, you can type it in. So meeting with client, and put in the hours and the rate. All the optional rates will show up. Again, rates are all configured at the client and lawyer level, so you'll have a lot of different ways you can set those up. This particular time entry feature accommodates both individuals who are doing keyboard data entry, so they're doing bulk data entry, as well as the lawyer. And what I mean by that is we have over here start and stop timer features. So you can start timers, pause them, stop them, have it automatically increment the hours. We've got a spell checker at the bottom of the screen. We've got some settings. So for example, if I'm a lawyer and I log in the morning, I don't really care about all the other accounting stuff. I just want to get right to the time entry. You can click this option to have it automatically open when you start up. You've got a view print option. So when you post these, it can print out your time history. So all of that stuff is readily available for the lawyers or timekeepers in the firm. And if you're admin and you're entering time on behalf of someone else, it's much quicker because you can just use your keyboard. You don't have to worry about your mouse, and just use tab or enter and kind of work your way across. And it's very quick, as you can see. And again, you can use your mouse and click around freely in this window as well. Once you're done entering these types of transactions, you don't have to post them. You can go for lunch. We have an automatic auto save feature. So if you've ever had issues with, your computer crashing or whatever, you won't lose your time entries. You probably won't have that issue with EZLaw. It's very stable, so you're not going to run into that with us. And then once you're done, let's say you close the window, you come back, you open it, all your time entries will still be here. And then when you're ready to commit those to the client ledger, you click post and close. Save and close will just close this window. So all of our transaction entry features work the same way. So I click post, it'll ask me, you've got some incomplete entries. Do you want to abandon those? Yes, I don't need them. And then those are posted on the ledger. So then again, if you go over to the client ledger and you click time and fees, then you can select the client that you posted time for, and you'll see the unbilled transactions on the ledger. So very easy to record time and fees in EZLaw. So the next thing we'll look at is recording disbursements. There's a variety of ways you can track and record disbursements in EZLaw. There's a disbursement entry feature. Again, it's very similar to what we just saw. So if you want to put in, for example, a photocopy charge or a courier charge, you can just type it in, put in the amount. We allow for things like unit rates for photocopies or fixed rates and all types of different settings for disbursements. All your disbursement codes also have the tax settings on them. So that means if you're entering disbursements or doing checks to pay for client disbursements, it's going to calculate all the taxes for you. You don't have to manually do that, but you do have the option to override those, so they're not set in stone. So the first way to enter a disbursement on a client is to use disbursement entry. And then again, you could just post that. Another way that you could enter disbursements would be to write checks. So for example, if you have a FedEx bill that's for one or more clients, you can easily put that in as a payment towards the vendor, which would be FedEx. And then you'll see it'll break out the taxes depending on the settings. Obviously, I'm not going to have a $1,000 courier bill. But again, the distribution down here, you could assign to multiple individuals. So for example, if I did one, and then the next charge is for a different client, I just find one here, then you'll see it fills it all in for you. So then when you save the transaction, it shows at the bottom of the window. It's not set in stone yet. You can still edit and delete it. And then when you want to commit it, you can post it, and then that will commit it to the client ledger. So that's kind of a 2 steps in one: writes the check, pays the bill, and puts the disbursement on the client ledger. And then finally, the third way to do it, to record disbursements, is to use accounts payable. And if you're familiar with that, most firms that are small don't use the AP feature. It tends to be that they use check writing. But with accounts payable, you can keep track of vendors, and then you can enter invoices. Again, very similar to checks, you enter an invoice you receive from the vendor, and then that can either be for the firm or that can be for one or more clients, and you enter all the details in the distribution, post that invoice, and then of course, if it's for disbursements for the client, then the disbursements will show on the client ledger as well. So we do have that full-blown AP functionality built in. Very similar to the Client Matter Center. You can search, add vendors, maintain your vendors, right-click on them, edit them, delete them, run some basic reports. There's an invoice and payments ledger, so you can see all the invoices and payments against a vendor, and you can edit those as well if you need to, like edit, reverse vendor invoice. And there's some other basic functionality in there, like notes and custom fields and so forth. So again, multiple ways to deal with disbursements in EZLaw. You can also import them if you're dealing with CopyTrack, EquiTrack, Print Audit. If you want to bring in data by importing it, we have this great import-export template system. So you can set these templates up very easily and say, okay, I want to do a disbursement cost recovery import for photocopier. And this can even, essentially what happens here is you create this template, it imports a CSV file. It's very flexible in terms of how you can customize it, very easy to set up. For example, if you're dealing with CopyTrack, it takes less than 10 minutes to do this. And then it can run on a scheduler as well. So if you got a lot of disbursements to import, it can automatically import them for you. Okay, so next we'll take a look at entering, viewing, and modifying transactions. We have a lot of different types of transactions we can enter in EZLaw. So time and fees and disbursement credits, batch write-offs, transfers, all the various trust functionality like receipts, checks, check requisitions. Again, check requisitions would be used by larger firms if you have certain people in the firm who are allowed to issue those checks, whereas others are not, so they would do a request and then the accounting department would do a release. There's trust transfer functionality, moving trust funds between clients or matters, trust transfers to pay bills. You can do that at the time of billing or afterwards. There's also general transaction functionality, like entering a general receipt, such as a tax refund, writing general checks. So those would be checks to pay invoices for the firm or for clients. General check request functionality, again, for large firms. Creating bills, which we'll look at shortly. Payments, meaning receiving client payments, even receiving payments, for example, where an insurance company pays a client's disbursement. You can handle those in EZLaw. All the vendor functionality, and then kind of the less commonly used functionality like refund, NSF, journal entries, posting interest, stuff like that. Pretty much all the transactions in EZLaw are entered the same way I just showed you. The information you enter is at the top. You have some options depending on what type of transaction you're entering. Like if you're doing a trust receipt, you can print the receipt when you save it and add it to the deposit. And then you enter your transaction at the top, you save it, shows in the window at the bottom. All these windows are maximizable, so it's easy to leverage all your screen space or utilize the maximum screen space you have with regards to your monitor and resolution. And then when you're done with the transaction, you just click post and close. So that's essentially, as you saw, we entered the check and some time and disbursements. Everything's done in a very similar fashion. When you're dealing with transactions after they've been entered and you need to modify them, for example, editing, reversing, writing off, etc., you can do that in a variety of places. You can go to the Client Matter feature. You can select a client, find a transaction such as an unbilled time entry. And from here, you could right-click, edit, reverse, transfer, write-off. There are business rules in place that prevent you from doing things you shouldn't. So for example, here is a client with some billed time entries. And obviously the bill is on the bill and payment ledger. You're not going to have a menu here to write off that time entry because it's already been billed. So we do have those controls in place throughout the application. And those essentially will prevent you from making a mess and painting yourself in a corner and doing things you shouldn't be doing. The other thing you can do with regards to editing and dealing with transactions you've already entered is use the find feature. Very, very powerful find feature, lots of criteria here. You can search for any type of transaction. So you could do a time and fee search with a date range for a particular user or lawyer or client, or even a specific time code. Click Find, you're going to see all the results. Again, it's very similar to what you see over in the Client Matters Center. Pretty straightforward. What type of entry is it? The date, the client, descriptions, names, amounts, and of course the status column, so you can easily see what the status of any transaction is. So from here, I also have the facility to be able to do things like edit, reverse, transfer, write-off. And again, this menu is all going to be based on what type of transaction you're looking at. For example, even here, you can export everything that you see in the grid below. So that does come in handy depending on what you're doing in the firm and exporting information and what your needs are with regards to exporting. The other thing you can do with Find is, for example, if we go into Trust Receipts here, you'd be able to select a receipt and reprint that as well. So these are some new functions that you don't have in the old legacy version of EZLaw. If you're an existing user, you may or may not have those in the software you're using if you're not using EZLaw. But again, very easy to reprint things, find things, make changes to those transactions. One thing I should stress is we do have a built-in user account group function. So that's for security. So you're probably wondering, well, can anybody go and make changes to things? No. As you enter users into the software, so they've got their own logins and passwords and so forth, you can set up groups, and groups will give you the settings in terms of available features and selected features for that group, and that'll allow you to restrict access. So certain individuals can't get into things they shouldn't be doing and so forth, or seeing reports they shouldn't be looking at and such. Okay, so next we're going to take a look. We got a quick poll actually before I jump into that next. There's a quick poll that popped up, so there's some questions there. If you want to answer those, that'd be much appreciated. The next thing we're going to look at is billing, because that's such an important part of every law firm. So when I open up Clients and Matters, there's a couple different ways to approach billing. One thing to keep in mind is our billing is very open-ended, so you can kind of set billing up how it suits your firm in terms of the workflow. And what I mean by that is, if you just want to do a quick bill and get it out the door, and you're a small firm and you're the one responsible for creating the bill and posting it, you can do it all in one quick and easy step. Now, if you're a larger firm and you have more approval process, for example, maybe the assistants create the bills, the lawyers review them. We have a send to function that lets you send bills around the office between different individuals. Most firms I find are still printing out copies and are having the lawyer make the changes right on it and hand it back to whoever's creating the bill. But the workflow with regards to flexibility in billing in a larger firm would be such that you could control who's able to post that bill, which means commit it to the client ledger before it's reviewed. So for example, if you want the assistants to send that bill to accounting before it goes out the door, you can actually use the send to feature and prevent them from posting the bill. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. We don't really have any billing scenario that we've run into that we can't handle, because we've basically designed it to be very, very flexible. So what I'll show you first is how to do a quick bill in EZLaw. So it's just a matter of obviously probably first running a pre-bill summary, getting all that information, reviewing it, what you want to bill and so forth. And then the next thing you're going to do is select the client and choose quick bill. What that's going to do, it's going to add the client to billing immediately. I'm just going to delete the one on the top here and just keep that bill just to ensure it's not too confusing for you guys. So the first line here is just a single bill that you're working on. If I want to add more bills to this kind of bill run I'm doing, I can just simply select the client and add it. And then I can add as many as I want. And the flexibility you have here is you can just leave these bills in this list, work on the content of the bill as the lawyer instructs you to make changes and so forth. And then you can send it to other users or finalize it yourself, again, depending on how your firm is set up. What you can actually do in billing is you can see the client number, you can see the template that's assigned to the bill. We have a very customizable template system where you can use a wizard and an advanced editor to edit not just the layout of the bill, but the fonts, the logos, and even the text on labels like if you want discount versus courtesy discount and things like that. So the next thing over here is the view button rather, where you can view the bill. You've got these bill date buttons. If you're doing a bill run where you're entering a lot of bills, you're going to want to set these dates first. The main reason is you don't want to go through and obviously have to edit every single client for the date to appear on the bill and bill transactions up to, which selects the transactions for billing. Next thing you'll see is the bill number, and then you've got some buttons, time and fees. You'll see if there's a value here, it means there's some time and fees. If it's 0, I'll just add another client. See if we've got one here. He's got time too. Let's try this one, 3001. Yeah, so if you see a client like this, no time and fees, no flat fee, no disbursement. Oh, actually, they do have disbursements. In this particular scenario, you don't have to have time and fees. You can go and put a flat fee in at the time of billing and enter some discounts and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these buttons so you can see what happens. So looking at this first client, we have $525 in time and fees and some disbursements. I'll click that button. It opens up this window. And what this window is it's all the content that's on the bill. By content, I mean here are your time entries. From here, I can edit time entries. I can add new time entries. I can do things like display a narrative in place of time entries if you wanted to do that. We do have this nifty auto text feature. All you do is type in an abbreviation. It fills in the entire narrative for you. You can even hard code narratives to the templates, although doing so just is going to require that you're going to need more templates. You can mark up the fees on the bill. The billing feature is smart enough that, for example, you have an amount column that shows on the bill and you do a markup to $600, it's going to automatically hide that amount column because obviously you don't want to show that because it's not going to add up. If you have a client, for example, like this one that has no flat fee, here you could type in the description, you can copy paste it in, you can use that auto text to automatically fill the whole thing in. The way auto text works is you just put in a code and then you can set up a description, so it can be pretty lengthy, and then you type in the code, so in this case FSR, and you hit spacebar and it fills in that description for you. So then you can do a flat fee bill very easily in here. You're going to see a list of all your disbursements as well on the disbursements tab. You can enter disbursements from here. Again, everything's permission driven. You can also edit disbursements. Again, if you don't allow the users to edit disbursements in the firm, the assistants who are creating the bills, we even have functionality where they can edit the descriptions, but not the actual disbursement amounts and details. So there's lots and lots of functionality that, unfortunately, I won't be able to cover it all, but it's definitely in there. So if you do, as we go through this webinar, if you're coming up with things where you're wondering, do we have this, do we have that, definitely get in touch with us in sales. We have an anticipated disbursement feature. Really all this is it's a kind of a reminder system that you know an invoice is coming for from a client and you want to put it on a bill, but you don't have the invoice yet. What this does is it records it on the bill and records it on the client, so that way when you write the check, it just offsets it. So it's really just a reminder system more than anything. So as you kind of work on your bill, you can make those changes. You can select a particular bill and finalize it, or you can select a particular bill, print it out, export it to Word, PDF, whatever you want to do, give a copy to the lawyer, have them make changes to it, send it back to you. Your bill will still remain in this window. So for example, if the lawyer instructs you to change this time entry, you could do that. Just quickly edit it, make a quick change, repost it. So everything, again, can be done in billing, very easy to do. We're also adding a lot of new billing features because, again, billing is such an integral part of any firm. So we have things coming right away, like the ability to sort time entries in the order you want them sorted in and so forth. There's all kinds of new things coming with regards to that. You can also apply payments to bills. So if you have funds in trust, it will show you how much you have available. And this is important with regards to, give me one sec here, I'm just going to pay this bill. I don't have enough money, so I'll just partially pay it. So it shows you if you put a payment on the bill. Putting a payment on is important as it pertains to the subsequent steps that involve getting the money to the firm. Because what this does is when you post and finalize this bill, it will post the trust transfer to pay the bill, and it'll also queue it up so that in a single step process, you can issue the check to the firm, and you can it'll queue up the deposit for you as well. So really, it's just doing a whole bunch of steps for you in one shot in order to save you time. So what I'm going to actually enter a payment for this bill as well, so that we can show you that feature shortly as well, with regards to getting the money from the trust account into the firm's general account and doing the deposit. So we've got two bills here that we want to finalize. Both of them have payments. Again, if you don't need to finalize everything in here, just select what you want to finalize. Click finalize. You got lots of options: print it, PDF it, send it out to Word. In this case, I'm just going to post and close. And then the two bills that I'm still working on will remain in that window. Okay, so next question you might have is, do we handle UTBMS billing? Yes, we do. That's built in all the various UTBMS formats, exports the file to Excel for you to upload if you're using that type of billing functionality. One thing I should mention in billing that I overlooked is we do have allocation. So you can set allocation for fees and receipts on a global level or on a client level, or even override it at the time of doing the bill or the payment. And that will allow you to control who's getting fee credit just for the bill based on amounts, percentages. You can prorate it. You can put it all to the responsible lawyer. So all that functionality is available as well. Okay, so what we're going to look at next is receiving payments for bills. Again, pretty straightforward. Transactions, payments, enter bill payment. And then as you go through here, you're going to pop up a list of a client. And if there is indeed an unpaid bill for a client, which I don't seem to have, try one more. There we go. This client has 3 bills. You'll see the amount. You can put in a memo, payment on account, $1,000. And then again, it'll allow you to fill in the amounts. And again, if you do have multiple bills on account, you can actually type the amount and it'll fill in that line item for you. So we can print receipts when you're receiving payments. We can add, with regards to receipts, we have a very flexible system. So you can just enter receipts freely throughout the day. Doesn't matter if it's trust receipt, client receipt, whatever the case may be, GL receipt. They can all be added to the deposit, and you can completely customize that. And we'll talk about that shortly as it pertains to bank reconciliations and such. So receiving payments towards clients, pretty straightforward. And let's see, let's actually look at the deposit feature next, because it kind of ties in with receiving money. That's located at under banking, make deposits. What the deposit feature is it's a list of all the receipts you've entered throughout the day. So again, you can customize this if you want to use the deposit feature or not. All it really does is group transactions so they show on your bank rec that way. So if you've got a number of transactions you've entered, like trust transactions, you can say, I want to do a deposit for these transactions, finalize it. I want to print a deposit listing for the firm and the bank, do a deposit slip, and then that's going to flow into the bank rec and show you essentially a lump sum for that deposit, and you can still view all the details. But again, if your bank statements are set up differently, or maybe you're scanning checks in and each individual item shows as a unique item on your bank statement, you don't have to use this deposit feature, but it is there if you need it. We also deal with overdue accounts. So if you've got clients who owe you money that haven't paid their bills, you're probably wondering, how do I deal with those? I'm sure we can get some interesting answers to those questions, but instead we'll talk about the statement feature. The statement feature is intended to allow you to produce statements for your clients. So you can use a default statement or the modern statement we have. There's a couple different formats. You got all kinds of criteria to be able to select which statements you want to produce for which clients, which lawyers, et cetera, or minimum amounts. We have an interest posting feature as well. So if you are charging interest, you don't have to post it in EZLaw. You can charge it and show it on the statements for the clients. You have the option to post it. So you can click post interest and you'll get all kinds of interest posting options in here that are going to show you the client and the bill and the interest amount and all that sort of stuff. So very, very flexible with regards to dealing with interest. We do find most clients don't tend to post the interest. They just want to show it on the bill. So again, you have that functionality readily available to be used. With regards to handling trust, because of course that's very important in any law firm, we've got trust receipts and writing trust checks and check requisitions and transferring between matters, transferring trust to pay bills or doing it at the time of paying the bill. We also have quite a few trust reports. So there's a trust listing by bank, by client, term special trust if you have interest-bearing trust. We have, because we're in BC, of course, we have TAF functionality that'll automatically be charged to the client. So you can set up your TAF account information and produce trust administration fee reports. That's going to save you a lot of time as well. Check writing and printing, again, an important, or even EFT transactions, an important part of any kind of business or law firm. So you've got all that functionality available. So as you enter your checks or do your EFT transactions, you can easily handle those. If you are dealing with checks, we have the ability to pop that check printing window up after you've posted the check. And then what it does is it displays the check printing feature here. So you see a list of all the checks you produced. You can select the ones you want to print. We can accommodate any check style very easily, whether your check is at the top, middle, or bottom. You do need to be single page laser checks. So if you do have checks in your office, you don't have to order new ones. Again, this all of these templates, doesn't matter if it's statement, check, bill templates, email templates, are all customizable as well. So with regards to statement, or with regards to checks, you can easily handle whatever the scenario is in your firm, including reprinting checks. We've got that functionality. Just in case you print a check in the printer jams and you need to reprint it, you'll be able to easily do so. So next, let's take a quick look at reporting in EZLaw. Lots of different reports available. You can access reports from here or from the pull-down menu. We've got a large amount of reports from clients and all the transaction history and trust and AR to close clients. Unbilled reports that show you like how long has the unbilled been on the account. Bill of costs, interest on disbursements. A lot of lawyer and timekeeper reports that cover everything from billing and variance to unbilled transactions, pretty much you name it, all the way down to billing realization, typically used by larger firms, shows you your effective hourly rate on a client based on all your time entries and the work you're doing and so forth. That's a really good report for monitoring how the firm is doing if you do a lot of time and fee entries as well. Trust reports, accounts receivable, aging, lists of bills and payments and all that kind of stuff. Vendor reports. There's additional reports under the reports menu for bank reconciliation, outstanding checklists and bank journals and deposit and receipt reports, tax reports, financial reports. Of course, we do have a complete financial back end. So you've got your trial balance and balance sheet and profit and loss and all that sort of stuff. So I'll just have a quick look at the client listing report. Reports are pretty straightforward. You enter your criteria. You can select date ranges and different types of criteria. You can even narrow them down for things like specific types of law or specific lawyers. So you got lots of flexibility there. You can view or print reports, maximize those so they're easy to read. Reports also have drill down functionality, so you can click on something on a report, on a figure, and then see all the underlying detail for that. You can also export these reports. Of course, you can print them out, but you can export them to a variety of different formats, CSV, Excel, RTF, and all that sort of stuff. So reporting, again, very flexible in EZLaw and easy to get your data out to Excel. There's a full-blown bank reconciliation feature. So again, that does tie into the deposit feature to help you reconcile your bank accounts. So essentially enter your statement information, and then you're going to see all your checks, your deposits and other credits. You can post all your adjustments for your bank rec. You can print your worksheet. We're currently working on a feature to import your bank statements. So firms that deal with large volumes of transactions, easy to import that. That will be coming probably, I would say late October, November at the latest, so that'll really help you out if you're dealing with a large volume of transactions on your bank statement. Okay, so the setup process, I should basically touch on that a little bit. Before I do, I'll just show you one more feature called Snapshot. What this is if you have a larger firm with a lot of users and you want lawyers to be able to look at their own numbers, like their, you know, their billings and their variance and all that kind of stuff, and they want to be able to look at their time entries, they can input a date range here, and they can run these reports. And they get two reports. They can run either or both. So they can see, for example, the lawyer balance summary, billable, unbilled, billed, receipts, write-offs, how much time they spent on each day. They can drill down and get all the details for those. We do have budgets as well for lawyers as well as the general ledger. Those can be set up monthly or annual. Then there's this time entry report here. Where this comes in handy is in a mid-sized to large-sized firm where lawyers want to be able to see their numbers throughout the month, but not constantly bug accounting and say, hey, can you run those reports for me? So they can do it themselves, and it prevents them from looking at the figures of the other lawyers or timekeepers in the firm. Okay, so back to the setup process. Very straightforward. If you want to get started with EZLaw, it's really just a matter of visiting the website, selecting free trial, fill out the form. It's going to email you an installation link and a password, or sorry, not a password, an activation key. And then it actually just directs you to visit this page, install.ezlaw.com. And it's just a simple click of a button, follow the instructions, it installs it, put in your activation key, you're done. If you're a multi-user environment where you have a server and you want to try this out, and you want to have multiple users using EZLaw 360 during the trial phase, best to install it on your server first, and then install it on the workstations afterwards. It doesn't really matter though, because you can change the settings even if you've installed it in the opposite order. So if you are running EZLaw already and you want to try out 360, be sure to get a trial. It's not going to impact your existing EZLaw, it doesn't touch it, totally separate application. If you're a mid-sized to large-sized firm, we can do a test data migration for you so that you've got some data in there to play with. If you are converting from another application, such as ESILaw, you can go into the import-export feature here. We do have a template for importing data, so we can import quite a bit of data from other applications like clients, contacts, vendors, unbilled time and disbursements. And then usually for trust and bills, unpaid bills in the general ledger, you go with opening balances and such. But if you do have questions about migration or conversion, do let us know, because there are a few other things that we should inform you about. The setup process as well, once you go through and download that trial and do the install, it's just going to run you through the setup process to create a company. And that will actually pop up a window before you even get into EZLaw that allows you to basically fill out information on your company, names, phone number, or company name, phone numbers, some basic settings. Takes all of 5 minutes to do that. Normally after that, you go through and you set up some of your lists, like your lawyers and your time codes. We do have a chart of accounts already as part of the software here. So again, depending on the accounting method you select, whether it's billings as revenue or unbilled as revenue, you've got all those options. It's going to fill in your chart of accounts for you. It's a very highly customizable chart of accounts. If you're not familiar with how to adjust the chart of accounts in terms of setting up new accounts or structuring it accordingly, you should talk to your accountant about that. So setup process is very straightforward, but if you're migrating from EZLaw to 360 or you're migrating from another application, give us a call and sales will walk you through it. And once you've kind of got the general overview of it, you'll see that it's not too difficult to do. Finally, our licensing, our user accounts, so each login essentially has a license, but you can sort of set that up however it suits the needs of your firm. There's no restriction on how many computers you can install EZLaw on. So if you've got a 20-user firm, 5 lawyers, 15 staff, maybe not all the lawyers use the software. You don't have to get them a license because every license comes with a login and a timekeeper. So let's say you only needed 18 licenses, that's going to give you 18 logins and 18 timekeepers. In the event you have users who don't need their own login, and what I mean by that is they're not entering any data, maybe they're just looking things up, you can share logins. You just can't log in simultaneously, but you could use the same login, username and password as well. We do offer promotional pricing for firms switching from EZLaw to 360, so don't look at the website. There's some preferred pricing you'll get that's very attractive. Same thing if you're coming from another application, we have preferred or promotional pricing, so definitely give us a call in sales because you'll get a discount off what you see on the website. Other than that, in summary, there's a lot more functionality in 360 than we're able to cover today. So if you do have questions, let us know. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to have a quick look at some of the questions that have been posed. So we'll see if we can answer some of these quickly for you. And then after that, I'll pass you off to Yash, who's going to have a giveaway at the end of this webinar. So just give me a few minutes as we go through these. All right, so let's see what we have here. Discussing conversion, best to talk to sales about that. Front office PM CRM features. One thing I should mention is we have a new product coming in browser that works with EZLaw 360. So I did mention that earlier, but I'll just give you a quick look at that. What this is a browser-based solution. And again, you can use this with EZLaw 360. And what it has, I'm just going to minimize the questions here. What it has is it's got calendaring, shared calendaring, events, tasks, contacts, companies, clients, all that stuff you saw in 360, time and fee entry, billing. It's got a bit of an enhanced reminder system for reminding you about appointments and things like that as well. It can even remind you by sending you an SMS text by email. Eventually, you will see all of the accounting functionality from EZLaw move into that browser solution. Document management, does EZLaw include document management? We don't have document management per se. We have the ability within 360 to link a folder. So you can click view documents on a client. Let me find one where it's not set up first. So view documents and clients and matters. It'll say you don't have a folder set up. Do you want to set one up? Yes. And then from there, you can use Google Drive, Dropbox, SkyDrive, or even a local folder. But we don't have document management as it pertains to check-in, check-out, and things like that you'll find in applications like Dropbox. In the future, we'll probably have an integration to one of those solutions because they're very good at what they do. So we're not going to try and reinvent the wheel for them. We don't integrate with ProSuite because they're a competitor to us. But we do have tools in EZLaw where you can import and export information. So if you're trying to move, let's say, client information, or you're trying to import fees from time and fees from ProSuite, you can do that type of stuff. We have a separate system to generate matter numbers. Will EZLaw allow us to use the same matter number? Do we have to go to the system generated? You can override that. Type it in anytime, so you don't have to use what we give you. It's not hard-coded. And again, they can be alphanumeric, 12 digits for the client number, 6 digits for the matter number. Can you generate revenue, generate and reuse generic invoices for flat fee? You can create a template with a flat fee description on it, which essentially you could reuse. We have a memorize transaction feature coming later this year that allows you to actually memorize transactions, including bills. So that would come in handy. Just to give you an example, if you memorized a bill for a client, corporate annual returns, you can memorize every single invoice for those returns without having to key them in every year. So that's really going to save a lot of time. We also have the ability, if you're posting, let's say you're doing a bill in a different product and you just want to post the numbers in EZLaw, you want to post the fees, the disbursement amount without the details, and enter the taxes, you can do that as well. Does the accounting in the program fully integrate with QuickBooks Online? No, it wouldn't do that because essentially they would be a competitor to us. Yes, EZLaw 360, I missed this question. EZLaw 360 servers based exclusively in Canada. Yes, they're in Montreal. Shortly probably going to be moved to Vancouver, and we may have some in Montreal as well. Still able to lock people out of certain functions? Yes, out of pretty much whatever you want. There's a lot more flexibility now too with regards to user accounts and permissions. And how would you write off something that's already billed? You'd go to the client ledger, select bill, and then you'd find, for example, this bill here that is partially paid, and you can right click on it, and now you have a write off to write off the remaining amount, or even a write down, which reduces the remaining amount. So if you're used to the negative transactions in EZLaw, which the entire accounting industry has moved away from, we're giving you features like write down, which produces a negative entry for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. Is there a way to add your file number to the bottom of the check? Yes. Check template is very customizable. You can add a client number in about 60 seconds to a check template. And of course, we can help you out with that. Payroll, we currently do have easy payroll, but we're moving away from that space. So ideally, if you're looking for payroll and you're not using payroll right now, you're better off to go with ADP or maybe QuickBooks payroll or something like that. And then with regards to the journal entry in EZLaw, you'll produce all the checks in the other application, but we'll have that memorized feature for the journal entry so you don't have to type it in every single month. After the bank rec is complete, can you close the month like you do in current EZLaw? Not only can you close the month, we've added more functionality where you can actually close the books whenever you want as of any specific date. And we've added some password functionality so we don't expire the password every day. Because normally when you close the books and you try to enter a transaction in a previous period, it's going to prompt you for a password. And if you're the only administrator, you don't want the password expiring. So that's all been enhanced. A lot of things in 360 have been enhanced over the EZLaw. No more rebuild indexes, automatic backup that runs on for example, on a scheduler, editable client matter numbers. There's just a list that's a mile long on enhancements. And then let's see what else we have here. On miscellaneous files, can you put in a description as to who it is billed? That one I'm not too sure about. Can you please contact sales so we can get a little bit more info on that? Can EZLaw be installed on a Mac? Not ideally yet, not until we fully finish the browser solution with all the accounting. Once we launch that browser solution, it will have billing and receipts and time entry and client management and all that, but it's not going to have financials and journal entries and bank recs and things like that. You'll still need the EZLaw 360 backend. But again, if you want to kind of split the firm up where the lawyers want to use the browser solution and the admin staff want to use the desktop, that's a really good scenario because it's much easier to multitask in the 360 desktop product. For anybody who's ever used a cloud product, you'll know what I mean. There are some restrictions, whereas the browser solution works a lot better for the lawyer who's not such a power user, tends not to be such a power user. How easy is it to transfer data from PCLaw to EZLaw? Just give us a call about that. We'll kind of fill you in on the entire process. It's not lengthy, but again, it depends on the size of your firm, what you're looking to transfer and so forth. How does EZLaw 360 integrate with eConveyance? We've got a new feature coming right away. There's an eConveyance import, and then it'll tell you if it's not configured, in which case you can edit it. And then what it does is it'll allow you to import all your disbursements from eConveyance. And you'll see in EZLaw 360, you'll see this template set up here. If you're in Ontario, you'll also see one for OnCorp, you'll see one for CopyTrack. And again, these are very, very easy to set up to import data. Daily activities, what these buttons are, in case anybody's curious, these are just navigators. If you click on them, they just show you all the same functionality we looked at. Gives you a little bit of a workflow. You don't have to use them, but they are there if you want to. So it's up to you. All of the information on these navigators or reports are all available on these top menus as well. The reason for that is you may not have a certain screen open. Let's say you don't have the reports window open, you can still access reports from down here. So it's more of a convenience than anything. So we're just about out of time, so we'll have to answer some of those additional questions through email and so forth. And I'm going to pass you off to Yash, who is going to essentially handle a giveaway. No, we're not giving away a free trip to Europe or a car, but he does have something. So if you haven't fallen asleep and you're still sticking around, then you have a chance to win. So I'll leave that with you, Yash. Thank you very much for attending the webinar.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, everyone. It is now time for our Amazon gift card lucky draw. And so you can see my screen here. We have everyone's names listed down. And the lucky winner is Morgan Blakely. Congrats, Morgan Blakely. We will be in touch with you over the email very soon. And thanks to everyone for attending the EZLaw webinar. Hope you all had a good time. And if you have any questions, please reach out to the EZLaw team and to Michael. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.